This is going to be a particularly interesting one to review because this is an episode that, first of all, has been animated. But second of all, I actually listened to the audio for this one before the animated version was released. And I only just recently saw the animated release of the story, which should kind of give you an idea of the difference between where I am in my viewing of Classic Who compared to when these reviews are actually coming out, because the animated version came out almost a year ago, but it actually didn't come out in America until November of 2019, but I actually got the UK version because I like steelbooks, so it doesn't matter in the end. But what's interesting in this case is that I was able to definitively find out what I had suspected and worried about, which was that sometimes the audio of missing episodes just doesn't do them justice. And honestly, that's a good thing for me to definitively know going forward. So when watching this animated episode, I did find that I enjoyed it a little bit more than just listening to the audio. That's probably a really obvious thing that, of course the story is better with the visuals. Of course you get more out of it, but, I just didn't really have a definitive pinpoint for that until now, because now I have listened to the episode and separately also seen the animation. This is far from a classic story, but it's definitely an enjoyable one. For one thing, the story is fun and pretty well paced. We're introduced to the actual Macra at the end of the first part, which actually look quite cool in this animated version. I actually didn't really remember much at all from listening to the audio version of the story since it was so long ago, so basically everything that happened in this episode felt vaguely familiar, but I didn't really know where it was going. I actually thought the episode did a good job at not giving you a full picture of what is going on. You're introduced to this city of brainwashed people, and you can pretty quickly tell that something is wrong, but it's not entirely clear what is the problem, other than, the brainwashed people and, of course, the Macra. I think that the first couple of parts of this story are better than the second couple of parts, not by a significant portion, but I just think that the first half of the story is a little more enjoyable, a little more engaging, and has a little bit less filler in it than the second half, which has some scenes that are a little bit extended, and the conclusion itself doesn't feel absolutely fantastic. It just kind of happens, and there's not much more to say about it. It is tough with Patrick Troughton's Doctor because he is so physical and has such a presence. It is quite difficult to capture that through animation. In fact, it's impossible to fully capture it, but I still found that there were many moments in this story with the Doctor that I just really liked. I like Patrick Troughton in this role, what can I tell ya? I really have nothing to say about Polly again. She really doesn't do much within the story. There are some scenes that have her at the forefront, but she really doesn't add that much for me. At least she did have a couple of scenes, but I do wish that the show was better able to develop that character. But I will say the character never really comes across to me as annoying. She's really just fine, she's there, and at the end of the day, that's not so bad. Jamie is pretty decent in this one. I enjoy the character, and there is a decent chunk of the story where he plays quite a big role. He's leading a good portion of the story, and he manages to do that pretty effectively. It is fun to watch him in situations like this because he's from a different time period to our other two leads and the Doctor, and that adds something by making him just that bit more out of element than most companions. I just found that he was pretty fun in the story, and the animation helps because there are a number of scenes in which he doesn't talk a lot. So for that reason, I was very appreciative of the animation in this episode, and just in general, I'm super appreciative that this has been animated so that people like me can watch it, because it's more fun to watch the animation than it is to just listen to the audio. Talking a little bit about the actual animation within this story, it's definitely an improvement on the power of the Daleks. It doesn't look amazing, but it looks good, especially considering they don't have much money to work with when making these things. And there are specific aspects to it that I really enjoy. I think the Macra look quite cool. The way you can see their eyes start to come out of the shadows as they creep out is great. I like the backgrounds in this story. They have a good amount of detail to them, and I think that they look quite good, though I don't have much to add about that. That was one of the best parts of the animation. Another excellent part being the previously mentioned Macra, which looked quite good. Just for the record, I did watch this episode in color, not black and white. I wasn't sure which one to go with, but people told me that this one was animated in color and the black and white was done later, so I decided to go with the color version of the story, and honestly, it looked really good. I know some people might be really against the idea of 62 in color, and understandably so, because it just wasn't filmed that way, it wasn't intended to be viewed that way, but I thought it looked quite good, and I got used to it very quickly. skip to the time shown on screen if you want to avoid spoilers, because I'm going to do a very short segment for spoilers now. We did find out that the Macra are actually behind the brainwashed city, and it turns out that they are in control, which was something I wasn't really expecting, as that I had almost completely forgotten the audio version since I listened to it so long ago and it wasn't very memorable. I was kind of expecting it to turn out that there would be a person behind the brainwashing and that they were using the Macra somehow, but no, that was not the case, and I liked that. It's kind of interesting because it would be rather difficult for giant crabs to control a city, for pretty obvious reasons. They're not human in any way, and there are just so many complications, so I just kind of like that. It just kind of worked for me. We also see Ben brainwashed in this story, so we get more with that character, except we actually don't get more of him, because as I said, he's brainwashed. So I don't know, that was kind of fun, but it doesn't really do much for me in terms of Ben as a character, but it makes the story a little bit more fun, so I enjoyed that. Overall, this is a fun story that's pretty well paced and has an enjoyable lead in Patrick Troughton. This isn't going to stand out for me as one of Doctor Who's best stories, but I liked it and I was glad to be able to see it. This is a pretty enjoyable story and earns a pretty good rating of 7 out of 10. If you've been following these classic Doctor Who reviews, I just want you to know that there is going to be a small break between this review and the next one. That's simply because the next story is The Faceless Ones, which is, of course, being released in March. So my plan is to watch that story as soon as I can, and then whenever I get that review out, I will have it followed closely by the review for Evil of the Daleks, the Season 4 review, and the Season 4 episode ranking, so as to catch up on the videos that won't have come out while I'm waiting for the next animated story. So the Sunday slot where these reviews are supposed to be coming out is going to be a little bit bare until then, but I'm going to catch up and make up for the lost videos by pumping them out a little bit faster at first before getting back on track. So I'll catch up on the videos that I'm behind on. They'll just come out a little bit late, but it'll be as if they had been coming out week to week. It's just, you're going to have a little bit of a break before then. Also, I mentioned before that I had listened to the audio version of this episode, and I didn't enjoy it quite as much, so I thought it would be kind of interesting if I showed you that review, which I recorded months and months ago. So I'm going to have that linked here, I'm going to have it linked at the end and in the description, and if you're curious about any difference between what I thought from the audio and what I thought from the animated episode, then feel free to check those out. I really think it was just much more difficult for me to engage with the story when I was just hearing these things described to me, so basically, take any missing episode review with a grain of salt, but you probably already did that. So yeah, you can check that out if you're interested. It's not really edited, it's just intended to give you my thoughts from the audio. So anyway, that's about all for now. I'm still going to have a number of videos coming out between now and the next classic review, but it's probably going to be about 3 to 4 weeks until my review of The Faceless Ones, so I hope you join me soon-ish for that, but if not, that's totally cool. Just know that I appreciate your time here today, and with that said, thank you very much for watching, take care, and have a lovely week, have a lovely couple of weeks, have a lovely month. I hope to see you soon.